Okay, here we go. All right, start moving the boat, please.
Request 6 meters 020.
Off the coast of Sicily, maritime archaeologists have discovered a mysterious artifact on the seafloor.
It's incredibly exciting to be able to see this sitting here after more than 2,000 years.
It may reveal clues about a fierce naval battle that completely changed ancient Rome's history.
We have liftoff.
I'm hoping it comes up in one piece.
Rome, the eternal city. 2,000 years ago, it was the greatest city of the ancient world and the heart of a mighty empire that stretched for almost 3 million square miles. Today, teams of archaeologists dig Rome and its empire, searching for clues to understand how this city rose to dominate so much of the ancient world.
For me as an archaeologist, this is a great site because you can see the growth and the rise of the Roman Empire.
How did this one city conquer the entire Italian peninsula, the Mediterranean world, and beyond? We follow excavators as they investigate how Rome and its people drove an incredible expansion from city-state to imperial power. In search of answers, Canadian archaeologist Eve MacDonald has come to the heart of the ancient capital.
Here it is, the Roman Forum, the center of the city of Rome. The very essence of the city that became a world empire.
Eve has been studying the Romans for over 20 years.
I find the Romans absolutely fascinating. If you don't understand the Romans, you really can't understand so much of Mediterranean history, of world history.
To see evidence of Rome's early ambitions of conquest, she's heading to one of the city's oldest structures, built in the 4th century BC.
Here we have a massive. These come from a site outside of Rome itself. They were quarried from a city called Veii, which isn't very far away. It's only on a tributary of the Tiber River. But it is a symbolic place because it stands for one of Rome's great early conquests.
Rome had a thirst for war and conquest, even before it was a powerful city. In the 4th century BC, Rome was a vulnerable city-state. It had a track for chariot racing and mass entertainment, the Circus Maximus. Temples for worshipping gods and for public meetings, and many houses made of mud brick and wood. It was spread across 7 hills, an area of 610 acres, and was protected by a huge wall, 32 feet tall, built in response to repeated attacks. How did this city begin the conquests that led to its complete control of the Mediterranean world?
This wall tells us about 2 aspects of the Romans. One is their aggressive conquest of their neighbors with their taking of the city of Veii, and the other is their incredible resilience in the face of challenge. It was a zero-sum game, conquer or be conquered.
In Trapani, Sicily, 260 miles south of Rome,
I think moving further east to delineate the battle site is a great plan.
maritime archaeologist Peter Campbell and his colleagues from the RPM Nautical Foundation are setting sail on a state-of-the-art research vessel, the Hercules. They're looking for traces of a brutal naval battle fought in the 3rd century BC.
The Battle of the Egadi Islands is one of the most important ancient naval battles that took place. This is a point where history changed.
Bridge Lab, tourist boat Intrepido is approaching on your port side.
Copy that.
Peter is a specialist in ancient marine warfare. He hopes the mission will provide clues to how the Romans mastered the seas to achieve one of their most important conquests.
The significance of this battle is that Rome took on Carthage, which was a superpower at the time. It's really exciting to be part of this project for me because there's very little evidence for ancient warships that has survived.
Ancient historical accounts reveal the clash took place off the western coast of Sicily. To identify the full extent of the battlefield, the investigators used the very latest search technology, including side-scan sonars, which map the seabed.
The search area is 5.5 times larger than Manhattan, and we're sitting on a research vessel 100 meters above the seafloor, so it's a bit like searching for objects that are less than a meter wide from sitting on top of the Empire State Building.
Peter and the team have identified anomalies on the seafloor. The challenge now is to examine each of these targets at a depth of 260 feet and find out if they are traces of the battle.
Bridge Lab 1, reduce speed to 0.7 knots.
The archaeologists head to one of the most promising sites.
Copy that. Slowing down to 0.7. 40 meters to go.
The team launches a cutting-edge remote-operated vehicle, or ROV.
The ROV serves as our eyes on the seafloor.
Technology like this has revolutionized maritime archaeology. Long-lost treasures are now within reach. This underwater robot houses a high-res camera, allowing the archaeologists to study their targets close up. With the ROV successfully deployed, Peter and the team can now examine every inch of the sea floor.
If you spin left, we might have a little flicker of something. We can try and see if anything flashes.
Dave, do you know what current is here? 1.0 from 350.
The ROV moves carefully from target to target.
Got something there, about 8 meters away. I think it's a rock. What do you guys say?
Rock.
All right, let's keep moving. If you come back up, it's a bit like looking for a needle in the world's largest haystack. So what we're trying to do here is search this area and hope that something pops out of the abyss.
Visual contact.
Suddenly, the image on screen gets everyone excited.
Bridge Lab, stop. Large visual contact here.
Trying to keep him down.
Looking down. There it is.
That's a beauty.
Bingo.
In Terracina, 50 miles southeast of Rome, a team of archaeologists is digging at an intriguing site on top of a mountain.
This is the central place where all the people from Terracina are coming together to worship their gods.
Archaeologists Paul Shedding and Francesca Diasono are leading the excavation.
The thing that I enjoy the most being an archaeologist is that you can touch history. So you have real objects, you can touch it.
We have so much work to do now in a wonderful landscape.
Terracina is a very ancient settlement, dating from at least 600 BC, and it was one of Rome's neighbors. Paul and Francesca hope it can yield clues to the early stages of Roman expansion within the Italian peninsula.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Hi.
Something special?
Yes, we found an ingot.
It's a piece of lead.
Yes.
With an inscription. Oh, it's very unusual to find it, very rare.
Yes.
Inscriptions are valuable clues. The names and style of lettering can reveal their date.
You see, this is a V and the A, this has to be maybe.
Yes, and this is also complete.
Yes, and it's definitely Roman. So we have something in hand which we can work on. This is an exciting day actually for us.
The inscribed ingot shows the presence of the Romans on site, but not when they arrived and took over. To confirm the date, the archaeologists need much older evidence.
Hi guys, how's it going? Fine.
Francesca checks in with her team in another section of the site.
How about the material, what you find?
We found some pottery, some black glazed.
I think it's a piece of pottery. Yes, you have to keep it.
Every tiny shard of pottery they find can provide vital clues. To the expert eye, minute differences in shape and decoration can be evidence of place and time of production.
We found big plates of Roman period from, I think, 2nd century BC. This is a big jar for containing food. This is pre-Roman pottery, but it's very, very small. This is pre-Roman because it's handmade pottery, so before Rome arriving here.
The pre-Roman pottery is mostly found in deeper archaeological layers, which points to a date of Roman conquest.
Terracina as a Roman colony started at the end of the 4th century BC.
From its earliest times, Rome started clashing with its neighbors and was slowly expanding. In the 4th century BC, it kept pushing south to Terracina and beyond to the Bay of Naples. By the middle of the 3rd century BC, Rome controlled most of the Italian peninsula. The excavation is going well for Paul and Francesca, but many mysteries remain unsolved here.
The temples and the architecture were built in different steps, so we want to get also a clue how this whole area developed and to link all the structures to the rise of Rome.
Off the coast of Sicily,
Look at that.
Peter and the team are trying to work out what the sunken relic is.
Oh, it's all twisted and covered in fishing line. Johnny, can we get on the back?
Yep. Okay, I'll come up and start moving around so you can try and get a good overall view.
The team hopes this evidence can identify a section of the battle site where Rome fought for mastery of the Mediterranean.
Look at that. It's a ram. Woo! So it's a bit of a jumble, but underneath all of that, it looks like a really impressive, robust ram.
This ram was attached to the front of a ship. It was designed to strike and sink enemy vessels.
This is an incredible discovery. It extends the battlefield, and it tells us that it covered a huge territory, much larger than what we expected.
Now, the archaeologists want to lift up the ram and examine it closely. They want to find out if it's Roman or Carthaginian. Team members Jim and Johnny are figuring out how to do it without damaging the fragile find.
We're going to have to deal with that ship, the line that's snarled around it, and get some kind of rigging on it, don't you think, Johnny?
Yeah. To bring it up. I think we need divers in the water to try and release that.
In Tunis, the capital of Tunisia, archaeologist Najib Ben Lazreg is investigating Rome's great rival in the Battle of the Agates, the Carthaginians.
I became interested in archaeology after reading about a discovery done in Egypt. I knew that Tunisia is full of ancient sites. Wherever you dig, you find something.
He heads to the seafront of the modern city, looking for ancient remains.
We are in the middle of the military harbor, which was around. In the very middle, we have an artificial island because the harbors were dug in the mainland. They didn't have jetties.
Carthage's harbor was a masterpiece of ancient engineering. It could fit up to 220 warships.
The foundation of the power of Carthage was due to their control of the sea routes.
In the 3rd century BC, Carthage was a major power. Their navy gave them control of territories on the Mediterranean coast. They had fought the Greeks for over 300 years to conquer western Sicily. In 264 BC, Carthage seized the port of Messana on the east coast of the island, only 3 miles from Roman territories on the Italian mainland. Sensing danger, Rome sent troops and ships to Sicily, triggering war with Carthage.
Carthage in the 3rd century BC was an important metropolis.
The Carthaginians were master seafarers. Their ships outnumbered the Romans. So when the 2 fleets clashed off the Aegates Islands, it was a crucial test of Rome's maritime ambition. 500 miles north of Rome, in Gunzenhausen, Germany, classical historian Boris Dreyer is leading a team of experimental archaeologists. Their innovative project aims to reveal the technology the Romans used to fight at sea. They have rebuilt 2 Roman boats based on wrecks found in the Danube and the Rhine, and want to test their speed and efficiency on water.
The best preserved wrecks can we find here in Germany, not in the Mediterranean. They were fixed on the bottom of the river, so the conditions were airtight and the ship could survive this 2,000 years.
The wrecks only provide partial evidence. Boris has had to make some mathematical estimations in important places.
This is the ram of the boat. We don't actually know the length of the ram. This length is just a guess, but we know that there must have been a ram.
This boat is a quarter of the size of the ones used in the Battle of the Aegates. Its ram is made of wood, unlike the bigger boats whose ram was bronze or iron. Boris thinks the ram reduces the turbulence alongside the hull and keeps the boat balanced as it cuts through the waves.
This kind of design makes the boat more stable in water because the boat is very shallow.
The next challenge for Boris and the team is making the boat waterproof. He wants to try an ancient method, using hemp, one of the earliest plants to be spun into fiber in the ancient world.
Hemp is important to make the space between the planks dense. The planks are pressing to each other so that no water will come into the boat.
When the wood is wet, it expands, compressing the hemp between the planks and sealing the hull. But problems soon emerge.
Also hier ist ein Loch, so etwa 20 Zentimeter.
Also da bin ich ja sogar gar nicht, da komme ich gar nicht hin.
Some of the hemp has been pushed in too far, leaving gaps between the planks.
Da habe ich halt den Eichen. Hier, genau.
This can jeopardize the boat's seaworthiness because the planks will not be locked together. Boris must make sure all the gaps are filled, or his boat could sink. In Terracina, Paul heads to the center of the modern town.
Here are some inscriptions left here. It's the letter I, then V or U, and S. This is the inscription of the man who financed the forum.
The full inscription reads Aulus Aemilius. He was a wealthy Roman citizen.
This is the ancient forum, and this is the actual ancient floor.
Wherever Romans like Aulus Aemilius went, they rebuilt Rome. Their new subjects soon enjoyed the benefits of life under Roman rule. Right next to Terracina's Forum, another ancient structure helps reveal how the Romans took control of all Italy.
The most important thing here is the road over there. You can see coming from the north and going through the south.
This ancient road, the Via Appia, connects Terracina directly to Rome. It's evidence of an ingenious tactic of Roman control. In Rome, 50 miles north of Terracina, Eve examines traces of the same road leading out of the capital.
This is this amazing example of one of the many thousands of tombs of people who wanted you to see as you walked into the city that they were prominent Romans.
These many tombs of wealthy Romans reveal the importance of this road. It is the main entrance into the ancient city. Eve can date the road through these monuments.
We often date portraits from the Roman period by the hairstyle. The hairstyle of the woman who's on the left is very similar to the hairstyle that we see on some of the portraits of the first Roman Empress Livia. That's Augustus Octavian's wife. So the 1st century BC would be a good date for the family here.
The dates of these tombs reveal that by the 1st century BC, the Via Appia was already established as one of the most important highways in the ancient world. The Romans began building it almost as soon as they started expanding in the 4th century BC. The Via Appia led to Terracina to the south, extended southeast through Capua, ending at Brundisium in 264 BC. Spanning over 360 miles, it was the first superhighway the Romans ever built and was a vital route for marching armies and military supplies. This huge paved road, averaging 20 feet in width, allowed Rome to concentrate its troops rapidly and maintain control of far-flung territories. It was crucial to Rome's military domination of the Italian peninsula.
Very early on in Rome's history, it has the ability to create massive infrastructure.
In Terracina, at the dig site, Paul and Francesca are hunting for artifacts to date the buildings of the temple here and find new clues about Rome's expansion. But their project might have to come to a halt.
There are thunderstorms coming from the north to Terracina. This is quite a difficult situation for us because we're on top of the mountain, so we are kind of exposed.
Last year, the team sheltered in one of the ancient temples during a storm, and it was hit by lightning.
Excavating in a thunderstorm is like the most dangerous thing what you can do.
Everyone hurries off the site. In Gunzenhausen, Germany, Boris and his team are ready to put their Roman replica boat on water.
Hello. Hello. How is it going? Are we ready to take off?
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully it will not sink.
They want to test its speed and efficiency to find out if shipbuilding technology and engineering are the secret to Rome's expansion into the Mediterranean. First, they need to tow the 2.2-ton vessel out of the hangar.
Noch drei. Weiter, passt. Stop.
We may go ahead.
You're ready.
It has been a year in the making, so they take great care.
Geradeaus. Wunderbar, wunderbar.
Once out, Boris reverses the boat slowly into the water. No one knows if the ancient hemp waterproofing technique will work. There's a real risk it will sink. The boat is finally afloat. But water starts seeping in.
We just have to look, yeah, it's not sure. Water is coming in, but it seems to be okay. It's a right amount of water.
The boat can handle around 3 inches of water inside the hull, but more could become dangerous. This allows the planks to expand and lock the hemp inside.
Okay, done. Hit on.
The Roman shipbuilding design is so far proving solid. Off the west coast of Sicily, the divers have cleaned up the ram and wrapped a strap around it. Peter and the team aboard the Hercules are getting ready to lift it.
On the blue gear.
Okay, we got a ram. Here we go. All right, start moving the boat, please.
Request 6 meters 020.
The main challenge is to attach the strap to the ship's powerful crane without damaging the brittle ram.
Back deck, deploy the crane.
Deploy the crane.
First, the ROV has to pick up the heavy hook of the crane.
Dave, if you could just keep an eye on the tether in the top left. Right. No. Left. We'll go with the left. Yeah.
Down. Hey.
Okay.
Then, it needs to pass the tether of the strap through the crane's hook.
You have to spin around, come in that way. Back up, back up, back up. Let it clear.
Each movement of the ROV kicks up sand, reducing the water visibility, so progress is slow.
You got a straight shot in. Straight shot in now. Push right. All right.
Eventually, the two are connected.
Does everybody agree we're clear? We're clear.
All right, let's lift.
The ram has been underwater for 2,300 years. There's a huge risk that lifting it will tear it apart. Everyone in the control room holds their breath.
I'm hoping it comes up in one piece. Yeah. Up 3 meters.
Coming up.
In Gunzenhausen, Germany, Boris has enlisted the help of 18 students and volunteers.
Loose the ropes. Okay. Ready at oars. Put the oars in the water at the signal go. And go. And go.
They want to find out how fast a Roman ship is and how easy it is to maneuver. It could reveal if engineering gave Rome the edge in naval warfare.
Against the wind. They are rowing against the wind. Very, very heavy, difficult, rough. Go!
The strong winds bring the boat to a standstill.
I can't hold my hands, actually, but we have to continue rowing.
Keep to the rudder!
The Roman soldiers who rode into battle needed their energy to fight. Far from shore, in the full blast of the wind, Boris is facing another challenge.
There's no modern keel, and we only have the grip with the rudders in the back part of the ship.
The ancient keel of the boat is flat. It only extends around 13 inches underwater.
The wind is coming from the side and the ship is drifting.
In windy conditions, the flat boat drifts dangerously. Boris tries to direct his team and stabilize the course.
Nur Steuerbord rudern, Backbord ruder rein, Steuerbord rudern.
In battle, losing control of the boat could be fatal.
Los, Los, Backbord fertig, rudern!
The Roman admirals and mariners must have been extremely well trained to navigate large ships at sea. Back on course, the boat quickly starts gaining speed.
I think the design is rather good. It's a fast ship.
The boat averages 4 miles per hour, but it can reach up to 8 miles per hour during a sprint. At this speed, plunging into another ship with a ram attached to the front would cause catastrophic damage. After almost 2 hours on the water, Boris and his team return to harbor.
Before starting, I thought it would be harder. Against the wind, it's quite exhausting, but once we are at some speed, it's much easier, and I think we could do it for some hours.
This boat is very easy to maneuver, and one can understand that Roman soldiers are able to control the boat, to find the best position according to the wind. I think the result is a success.
With a fleet of hundreds of fast, well-built ships, the highly skilled Roman sailors had become a formidable match for their enemies, the Carthaginians. Off the coast of Sicily, the ram is finally coming out of the sea.
We have liftoff.
Step to the ram. Ram is at 80. Bring it to the surface.
Everyone has gathered on deck for the big moment, including the Director of Underwater Cultural Heritage, Valeria Livini. The heavy ram has made it up in one piece.
Peter, look. The force of the damage here
Yes.
produced a crack all the way up here.
And also in
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, damage on every face.
It's made of cast bronze, but still bears traces of the violent clash that sank the ship it was attached to during the Battle of the Agates. The next challenge for Peter and Valeria is to work out if it's from a Roman or Carthaginian ship.
E poi non ha iscrizioni,
No inscription.
quindi forse è cartaginese. Forse.
Carthaginian Navy?
I think.
The Romans usually decorate and inscribe their rams. The lack of any inscription suggests this one is Carthaginian. And remarkably, the size of the ram itself hints at the dimensions of the ship.
And on the inside is the wood. Yeah. 3 different timbers. Yeah. And this is a big keel.
We really need to get some samples. Can we do that? Great.
I mean, it's big timbers that it's covering here. I mean, this would have been a big ship.
The ship's size might have been a significant drawback. It made it harder to maneuver. This might even be the reason it was rammed and sank.
This ship must have run into one that was much better made, and it must have just crushed like a can when it impacted the other vessel.
For centuries, the Carthaginians ruled the Mediterranean. The rams on their ships were lethal weapons. In 241 BC, at the Battle of the Agates, they outnumbered the Romans, but were heavy with supplies. The Roman navy, now a match for their enemies, took down their masts and rode at speed into battle. They outmaneuvered the Carthaginians, ramming and sinking 50 of their ships and winning a shock victory. The unexpected naval victory changed the balance of power in the Mediterranean and opened the door for Rome's conquests overseas.
This was an amazing mission that is rewriting what we know about the Roman Navy, the Carthaginian Navy, and ancient military history. It really is giving insight into what it was like to be on board ships in the ancient period.
Next season, Peter and the team plan to return and scour the seabed for more artifacts to get a fuller picture of this defining Roman victory. In Tunis, Najib investigates how the loss of this battle affected Carthage. He heads to a very special site in the south of the city.
We find several layers of burials. The earliest layers go back to 750 BC.
The site is a Tophet, a sacred burial place for children. This special cemetery was established at the same time as the city of Carthage, around the 8th century BC. Each of these stelae was placed next to an urn, which held the cremated remains of a child. Najib looks for the last burials.
They stopped by the mid-2nd BC.
Only 100 years after the Battle of the Agates, the Carthaginians abandoned their precious graveyard.
The Tophet functioned with a city, with people who lived here, and they buried their babies here. The use of such a cemetery stopped with the destruction of the city of Carthage.
Najib looks for more clues of this devastating event. In a corner of the site, he finds an unexpected ancient construction, a vault.
It was not built by the Carthaginians because Carthaginians never knew the use of the vault nor the arch. So it could be only Roman. The Romans built this vault and surely many other ones on top of the remains of Carthage.
The Romans built over this precious burial site. It's evidence the Battle of the Agates wasn't the end of the rivalry. A few decades after the clash at sea, a Carthaginian warrior rose up, Hannibal. He crossed the Alps with war elephants and wreaked havoc in Italy for 15 years. Then, in 204 BC, Roman general Scipio landed his army in North Africa, forcing Hannibal to return home. They fought an epic battle. The fast Roman cavalry massacred the Carthaginian infantry. Carthage signed a truce that lasted just 50 years, until Rome invaded and burned it to the ground, and later rebuilt it as their own city in Africa. In the 2nd century BC, Rome's expansion engulfed the Carthaginian Empire and was pushing even further. In Terracina, the storm has passed. Paul needs to assess its damage on the dig site.
The storm last night was very terrible. So what are we doing?
Today the soil is very wet. I think it's a good idea to make a little survey of the area we don't excavate, so we can find pottery.
The team can use the setback to its advantage. The dark, waterlogged soil means pale pottery is much more visible.
We have a lot of finds, more finds than a normal day.
The temple that once stood here is now in ruins, its remains scattered on the mountainside. The archaeologists hope these many pieces of pottery can reveal when the Romans built it and what it looked like. Francesca spots something unexpected among the finds.
This is part of the decoration of the temple. It's a terracotta. I think it's a flower or something like this.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, yeah, this is actual part of the architecture.
Yes, this is the early decoration.
The Romans used terracotta to help decorate their buildings. The style of these pieces can help pinpoint the date of their earliest temple on site.
This is a Roman tile, you can say by the form. It was part of the roof. This must have been part of the 2nd century BCE, more or less.
From the 2nd century BC, The Romans built magnificent temples here. The largest was likely dedicated to Venus, their goddess of love, fertility, and victory. They overlooked the commercial harbor of Terracina and were a visual representation of Rome's power and riches.
Picture yourself as an ancient Roman standing in the streets of Terracina, looking up the hill, and then the monumentalization of these temples like growing and growing as the empire was growing at this very time.
Paul thinks the temple here is built on even greater spoils of war. He examines an extraordinary recent discovery, a terracotta head.
What we see here is the most amazing piece we found just a couple of days ago.
Paul compares its features to an established depiction of a famous warrior.
The most recognizable feature is that he's turning his head, and you can see it here. So it gives you an expression that he is in a dynamic position and looking through the landscape, also the armies he's in control of. We are quite sure that it's Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great built a huge empire in the 4th century BC. Paul thinks the Romans wanted to follow his example.
Alexander the Great, he conquered the East until modern India, and now the Romans starting to conquer this territory which was already conquered by Alexander the Great. So this is really a symbol for the power of Rome in the East.
The Romans conquered Alexander's homeland, Greece, in the middle of the 2nd century BC, just as they conquered Carthage. These incredible victories established Rome as the new military powerhouse of the ancient Mediterranean world.
You show the man who'd conquered the world, and now the Romans had conquered the world.
In Rome, Eve examines the ancient buildings inside the Forum.
We see the Colosseum in the distance there, built on the spoils of conquest and war. We see triumphal arches. So when the Roman victorious generals came back through to the city, cheering crowds would greet them, and they would parade the spoils of conquest through the Forum.
Rome's unexpected victory in the Battle of the Agates was a springboard for many more conquests, monumentalized in this famous capital city.
They were the first to display their enormous power, potential, their military might in such grand terms. They're there for us to read, and they're there for us to try and understand.
The team's investigations have led to new evidence of how Rome first expanded into its immediate neighborhood. It then built imposing structures like temples and roads to control its growing territories and showcase its power. The Romans built a mighty fleet that defeated a formidable enemy, the Carthaginian Empire, and gave them control of the Mediterranean. Future excavations will add precious information to how one small city gained so much power that it dominated the ancient world.